Sawadee welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. So growing up in Thailand, there was one kind of dish that made it to every single dinner, stir fries. No matter what else we've got going on, there's guaranteed to be at least one stir fry, if not two, on the table. That is because stir fries are fast, easy, and incredibly versatile. And here's the thing. If you know how to stir fry, meaning you understand the basic technique of stir frying, you can stir fry absolutely anything in your fridge. That is the difference between a chef and a cook. A cook can follow instructions for a dish, but a chef can create them, and that is when cooking gets really fun. So that's what I want to talk about today, how to stir fry just about anything and have more fun along the way. So the plan today is I'm going to talk you through the basic structure of a stir fry and go through all the common ingredients, and then I will do two different demos to show you the basic techniques that you can then apply to anything. First, let's talk about the structure of a stir fry. Now, this is the important mindset shift here. Once you can see stir fries in terms of its basic structures, rather than seeing different stir fries as being different recipes, that is when you can stir fry anything. So a stir fry is made up of three major components, what I call the nuggets, the sauce, and the aromatics. Let's go through them. First, the nuggets, which is a term that I came up with, for lack of a better term, for all of the chunky pieces in your stir fries. Basically, the protein and or vegetables. A lot of people are stuck thinking that if you're gonna make a stir fry, you need protein and vegetables, but you don't. You can do an all-protein stir fry, like my garlic pepper chicken recipe, or you can do an all-vegetable stir fry and you only need one vegetable, like a bok choy stir fry, which is a recipe that I have in my second book, Sabai. For protein options, anything is fair game. Chicken, beef, pork, fish and seafood, eggs, which I will demo how to work with eggs today, tofu, and even leftover pre-cooked protein, which makes it even easier if you've got that ready to go. One big tip here when it comes to meat is the chewier the meat, the thinner you need the pieces to be. So with beef and pork, I like to make it no more than just like 1/8 of an inch thick, and then always slice them against the grain, very important. And then for softer proteins like chicken, you can be a little bit chunkier, like 1/2 inch is totally fine. Fish, you want even bigger. And on the website post, I will go through specific tips for how to best prepare each type of protein and different choices of cuts and all of that. And for veggies, again, anything is stir-fryable, even things you don't associate with stir fries, such as cucumber, which makes great stir fries, and even lettuce. Yes, Google it. Once you've decided on the big stuff, the nuggets, now we think about the sauce. Now the main job of the sauce is to bring in taste elements that you're looking for. And I'm using the word taste, not flavor, because there's a difference. Taste being sweet, salty, sour, umami, and bitter. Although bitter is generally not a part of stir-fry sauces, it could be, usually not, so we'll leave that out for this discussion. All right, let's break these down. Salty, the most important one because every single dish needs a salty element of some sort. Common options are soy sauces of all kinds, light, dark, Golden Mountain, Maggi seasoning, anything works. Oyster sauce, fish sauce, fermented soybean paste such as miso, shrimp paste, really anything salty that you can think of. Now you can use just one. For example, my cabbage fish sauce stir fry uses just fish sauce, or more commonly you can use a combination of a few things. Salt, straight up salt, can be used, but in stir fries it is less common. Where I can see salt being useful is if you want like a cleaner tasting stir fry, such as if you're working with homegrown vegetables and you really want the taste of the vegetables to come through, then that might be a situation where you want to go for salt. The next taste element is sweet. Now sometimes you want the dish to be prominently sweet, such as in a sweet and sour stir fry. But other times you want just a teeny tiny bit of it just to balance the salt without making the dish actually taste sweet, such as in my mixed vegetable stir fry. And that is something you, the chef, have to decide on for each dish. In terms of ingredients, white sugar is great if you just need a little tiny bit to balance the salt. But if sweet is going to be one of the main tastes, Then, using things like brown sugar, palm sugar, even honey or maple syrup for my Canadian friends, that is going to bring in a little bit more complexity. Sweet soy sauce is an option for you, very common in Indonesian stir fries. It's not very salty, it's mostly sweet. Thai chili paste is another ingredient that I would classify as a sweet element because it is quite sweet. However, it's also going to bring on a lot of other great flavors as well, such as in my cashew chicken recipe. Sour. Unlike salty, this is not an element that every dish needs. It just depends what you're going for. But if you do decide it, here are some options. Vinegar, like in sweet and sour stir fry. Tamarind, like in my tamarind shrimp recipe. Or you can even add some vinegary hot sauce, such as in my cucumber and chicken stir fry. Now, lime and lemon juice, you can add it, but it's not quite common because stir frying requires high heat, and lime and lemon juice don't do well in high heat. If you do want to add lime or lemon juice, just add it at the end so you're not cooking it for best flavor. Quickly about umami. If you're using any of those salty sauces that we talked about, they're going to be automatically bringing in the umami. So I find usually umami is not something you have to separately think about. Obviously, if you want straight up umami, little sprinkle of MSG will do the trick. What we talked about so far are taste providers, but there are other sauce ingredients that bring on flavor, but not necessarily the taste, such as sesame oil, which will bring on that nutty aroma that we associate with Chinese cooking, for example, or coconut milk, which will bring coconut flavor and creaminess, but not necessarily any salty, sweet, or sour. Quick but powerful tip about stir-fry sauces. You don't need to make it from scratch every time. Check out my universal stir-fry sauce recipe. You can make a jar of that, keep it in the fridge, it lasts forever, and you can use it to stir-fry anything and customize it with different ingredients each time if you want. Or if you've got a dish that you really like, say cashew chicken, just make 10x that sauce, keep it in the jar, keep it in the fridge, and now every time you make cashew chicken, you don't have to make the sauce each time. And most stir-fry sauces, because it's so salty, will last indefinitely in the fridge. Finally, aromatics. Now, you can stop at just nuggets and sauce. Okay? You don't need any more than that. However, every good stir-fry has some aromatics in it, which is what's going to bring complexity and flavor. This can be as simple as chopped garlic, and for a lot of dishes, that's all you need. But it can be anything you would call a herb or a spice, such as shallots, onions, Thai basil, chilies, lime leaves, green onions, lemongrass, cilantro. I mean, I could go on for hours, but you get the idea. Even things like curry paste or any sort of pre-mixed herbs and spices that you can just buy from the store, those work as well. Now that we've got the structure of the stir fry and know what kind of ingredients we've got to play with, let's move on to the techniques. I'm going to demo two different stir fries. The first is going to be a basic meat and vegetable stir fry, and you can use that technique for most ingredients that you're working with. And the second one is going to use ingredients that require specific treatment to give you an idea of how you might customize the technique to suit the ingredients that you're working with. Now, a caveat here is the techniques that I'm about to show you is not specific to Thai cuisine. This is a technique that you can use for different kinds of ingredients from different parts of the world, but there are techniques that are unique to other cuisines, such as Chinese cuisine, for example, that we're not going to cover here, but you will have enough of a foundation to work from. Okay, there are 5 main steps to my stir frying technique. Step 1 is to pre-cook the protein first and separately. Now, this is actually not a step you need to do. You can just throw the protein in with everything else if you want, but the reason I do it is because that way I can control how long the protein cooks so I don't end up with overcooked meat. If it's going in with all your vegetables, now how long the meat spends in the pan is tied up with how long your vegetables take to cook, and that's how you get overcooked meat. All right? When the pan is hot, I'm going in with my oil, and now I'm going to add my protein, just using chicken here, and I have also marinated the protein because I want to make sure the stir fry is seasoned throughout and not just like flavorful sauce surrounding bland pieces of chicken. And I'm gonna spread this out in one layer. If you want to be hardcore about it, you can do it in 2 batches so that you can get maximum browning for maximum flavor. But if we're just doing, you know, an easy stir fry at home, I don't get too worried about that. And the heat is high. And I'm waiting for the meat to be at least halfway cooked, 75% cooked. Nice browning on the underside, and then I'll give it a toss. The marinade, by the way, can be as simple as soy sauce or fish sauce, and it just needs to sit while you're prepping your vegetables, but you can get fancy with the marinade if you want to. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Give it a little more time. There we go. Good enough for me. Now I'm going to give everything a quick toss. And instead of individually flipping every piece to cook the other side, at this point I'm just tossing and getting it either completely cooked or mostly cooked, because they will go back into the pan. With chicken thigh, which doesn't overcook easily, I'm comfortable letting this cook to 100%. But with things like chicken breast that overcooks easily, I might stop this at like 85%, so that when I put it back in the pan with the sauce, I have a little more wiggle room. But that's getting pretty advanced. Just don't worry about it. All right, that's it. I'm turning this off and then taking it out. See, if you have a nice high heat, you can get pretty good browning, and browning is extra flavor. You can think of it as the difference between eating boiled chicken and eating fried chicken, right? That is the difference that browning makes. Now step 2 is saute non-delicate aromatics. Non-delicate meaning nothing leafy, nothing that's going to wilt, okay? So in the same pan, because that's got lots of good flavor, I'm going to add some more oil. Now, oops, excuse me. Anyway, now if the pan was super hot from searing the meat, I actually do this step off heat, just because sometimes if the pan is searing hot, the garlic will burn instantly. So this way, the cold oil will drop the temperature a little bit, ensuring that my garlic doesn't instantly burn. So for our aromatics for this recipe, I'm going to use garlic and chilies. And saute that. And the reason we saute the aromatics, and not just like throwing it in halfway through, is because the aromatics can, first of all, cook so it doesn't taste raw, but also infuse its flavor into the oil, and the oil will carry that flavor throughout the dish. So you don't just get pieces of garlic flavor in like separate, pieces throughout the dish. That is the reason why. If you're working with curry paste, you also want to be putting the curry paste at this step as well. Once the garlic starts to turn golden, not brown, so it's not bitter, we'll go to step 3, which is vegetables and sauce. I like to give the vegetables a little bit of a toss first, and now I'm getting a little bit of things stuck on the pan. I'm going to deglaze with a little bit of water, which I always have on hand when stir frying in high heat, because if the pan gets too hot, things are sticking, things are burning. A splash of water will cool it right down and save your stir fry. Now, once the vegetables have a chance to get hot, I add the sauce. This is a chili paste stir fry sauce that I have a recipe for on my website. I will link to below. You want the vegetables to cook in the sauce. So you don't want to just like cook the vegetables without any sauce and then add the sauce after, so that the vegetables have time to absorb the flavor. At this point, you can cook the vegetables for as long as they need. If you like the beans softer, spend some time here, let them cook. If you want them crunchier, this can just take 1 minute, okay? Important, if you're using multiple vegetables that take different amount of time to cook, this is where you need to stagger at them accordingly. So I'm using green beans, but then I also want to add some, say, bell peppers, which I personally like to be a little bit crunchy still. So I'm waiting for them to be almost done. Then I'm adding my bell peppers, which then I will take 30 seconds. And by the way, I always mix my sauce in a bowl ahead of time because here things are very time sensitive and I don't want to be reaching for 3-4 different ingredients and like things burning while I'm doing that, right? Just make things super easy. Step 4, add the protein back in. And give everything a toss. And oh my gosh, we're almost done. So again, don't get hung up with what ingredients I'm using exactly for this. This can be any other kind of vegetables, any other kind of meat, and the basic techniques will apply. And that's it. I'm going to off the heat. And then my delicate aromatics go in. If you've got basil, you can throw them in at this point. I'm going to do green onions. For super delicate aromatics like cilantro, I actually leave that for the table and just put it on at the end, just so it doesn't wilt. It looks better at the table. And that is it. And if you're gonna stir fry chilies, make sure you turn on some fans and open some windows or something. For the second demo, I'm gonna show you how to work with eggs and how to work with vegetables such as squash that 1, takes a long time to cook, and 2, are not forgiving when it comes to cooking time, meaning you can't cook squash to your liking. Undercook these and it's raw, overcook them and it's mush, so we have to be a little bit more precise with these, okay? So I'm gonna make a kabocha squash and egg stir fry, how convenient, which is a recipe that I do have on the website, one of my favorite vegetable dishes ever. You should definitely give it a try. Okay, so step 1 would have normally been cook the protein first and separately. But because our protein right now is eggs, they take so little time to cook, we're gonna treat eggs as if they were pre-cooked protein. And so they go in step 4, okay? So then we move right on to step 2, which is saute non-delicate aromatics. In this case, it's just chopped garlic, or pounded garlic to be precise. See, and for many, many stir fries, garlic is all you need. And at this stage, when you're sauteing garlic, you want to keep the heat not too high, again, because you don't want to accidentally burn your garlic. Especially true if you're working with curry paste, which burns much more quickly. You want to keep the heat low. Okay, garlic is starting to turn golden. Perfect timing for our squash to go in. So this is kabocha squash, and kabocha squash does not need to be peeled. I do partially peel it sometimes because sometimes there's like hard bits on the skin. I don't want that to be in there. But if you're working with other kinds of squashes, they do need to be peeled. Okay, so give that a quick toss. And because kabocha squash cut about this size, from experience, I know it takes about 5 minutes to cook. You don't want to be standing here stirring for 5 minutes. So what you're going to do is put in a little bit of water, and then the sauce. And that sauce is basically a very similar sauce to my universal stir fry sauce. Give everything a mix, and we're gonna cover and steam. This lid is just big enough for it. Okay, so now, because I know this takes about 5 minutes, I'm gonna let it steam for about 3.5 to 4 minutes, because you wanna come back slightly before the vegetable is done, right? Because we still have other things to do. If you don't know how long your vegetable takes, then you have to keep checking every minute or so. So use a fork, poke at it every minute in the beginning, see how soft it is. If you're getting close, you might reduce that interval to 30 seconds. Just poke and poke and poke. And if the water dries up, add a little bit more. And that's it. So I'm going to set my timer now before I forget and come back in a bit. Halfway through our step 3, I'm going to give it a stir, just to, evenly distribute the vegetables in case there's hot spots, cold spots, whatever. Just to give me something to do. Not totally important. So there, if you weren't sure how long these things take to cook, you would poke, and then, ooh, it's quite firm. So, it's going to take probably another couple minutes. Okay, let's see where this is at. Okay, that's pretty good. We're going to move on. Now, by the way, don't add too much water because it's a problem to have too much water, but it's not a problem if you have to keep adding a little bit. This is probably a little too much water. So I'm going to crank the heat to increase evaporation. And then we're going to move on to step 4, which is add your protein back in. But for our case, we're going to add it in for the first time. Right in here. And with the eggs, I'm going to just kind of lightly scramble and let it sit and set a little bit, because if I keep stirring right from when it's raw, the eggs are gonna be completely annihilated. And so I still want some chunks. So I have to kind of go slowly, give it time to set, stir a little bit, give it more time to set. You can put the squash sort of on top of the eggs. But you don't want to just add the eggs and then stir, 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 stir. And by the way, the eggs also absorb a lot of the liquid. So I always find that it looks like a lot of liquid, once you add the eggs, it just doesn't end up there being that much liquid because the eggs kind of absorb and sort of turn into a custard in the pan. There you go. That's exactly what we're looking for. Some pieces of eggs mixed with squash, and the amount of liquid is perfect. We go on to step 5. Turn off the wok, and in goes with delicate aromatics, this case being Thai basil, which is a match made in heaven with kabocha squash. Just love this flavor combination so much. And I toss the basil in at the end off heat because you don't want to cook the basil to death and then it becomes super wilty and unappetizing. And that's it. It's done. How easy was that, right? Now I've got a couple of notes for you. Some vegetables, such as broccoli and cauliflower, could fall into either category depending on how big you cut them and how soft or how firm you like them. So if you have chunky broccoli florets and you like them soft, probably gonna need to cover and steam. If you're cutting them really small and you like them kind of firm, you can get away with method 1. So you do need to use some judgment. So the other caveat is if you're working with rice and noodles. So fried rice, the general steps apply, but with some modifications and special techniques. I will write all that up in the blog post. With noodles, it gets a little harder to generalize because each kind of noodles require different treatments. So my suggestion for stir-frying noodles is you actually learn how to work with that specific kind of noodle based on a recipe and then generalize that technique. Okay, for example, if you want to learn how to work with rice noodles, how to stir-fry rice noodles, work off of a pad thai recipe or a pad see ew recipe if you want fresh rice noodles, and then generalize that techniques from there. Start modifying from that recipe and so on and so forth. And that is it. I hope this helps you stir fry with more confidence, creativity, and success. The recipes for both of these dishes will be on hotthaikitchen.com. However, for the chili paste stir fry, the meat and vegetables are different, but the technique will be the same. If you've got questions that I did not cover in this video, check out the blog post linked below. There'll be a lot more details covered there. A special thanks to all of our Patreon members who help support the show. And if you want to know what that's all about, how you can join my private Discord and we can have a chat, check out the link in the description below. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time. สวัสดีค่ะ